everyone. Hi, Tim. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you, Lori?
Good. Welcome, everyone, to your Net Worth by Design. We're here to help you understand your net worth, what that is, and maybe even give clues as how to increase it. Tim, why don't you go ahead and
Hmm.
introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. My name's Tim Zollner. I am a licensed real estate agent in Colorado. I've been with EXP for a couple years now. I think it'll be my third, fourth year anniversary coming up next
Wow.
year. Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah, I'm a real estate agent, but I'm also a musician. Got a lot going on. And just here to help anybody that I can. I'm kind of I would say my expertise lies a little bit with the technology side of things, but I enjoy all sides of real estate and everything. So here to help and here to share.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. I'm Lori
Of
Powell. For
course.
those of you who don't know me, had the wonderful life of having been a mega agent and helping a lot of agents reach their financial and dream goals, balanced life goals. That's what I enjoy the most is helping others. And we cover lots of topics, don't we, Tim, that hopefully helps agents based on our prior history with agents that have on topics that have helped others. So we just are sharing with those of you who are interested. And if it helps, that's even if it helps one person, that's what it's worth to us. So, Tim, net worth,
Yeah,
it's a
net
big
worth.
phrase that a lot of people are intimidated by. They think, oh
Yeah.
gosh, what does that mean? And I know from experience, right, that a lot of agents are more involved with building relationships than they are the financial side or the numbers side, right? The numbers can be
Mhm.
intimidating. Has that been your experience as well with agents?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like everybody likes to talk about numbers at the beginning of the year and make good plans and, come up with a strategy, but sometimes, really looking at the big picture can be hard. It's hard
Yeah.
to think about every aspect of your net worth. Also, it's hard to I mean, a lot of people feel like their net worth is their worth, their personal worth,
Yeah.
and that's it's not the case. But
Yeah.
it can be a sobering conversation to take a look
Yeah.
at that, and an exciting one too when you find out that hey, I'm worth a lot more than I thought. If you really think about everything, so
Yeah.
um,
Exactly.
there's a lot loaded in that little phrase, right?
That little piece, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that that's the key. Sometimes it's a scary phrase, and agents may just think, oh, well, it's over my head. I don't even need to think about whatever net worth is. You've got the other extreme too, agents who really know their numbers well. But those of you out there that may not know, you might be surprised, just like what Tim was saying, you might be surprised at what your financial net worth really is. And so we're going to go over just the basics of how to calculate that and have you think through it as we go through this, and then expand it a little bit further into ideas to be able to control or increase your net worth if you so choose. A lot of us have heard that it's a good idea to have at least two active sources of income and up to five passive sources of income. And all of those things add up to create a net worth value for you and your household, right? So Tim, um, if you think about the agents that you know, okay, and like think about three of them. If you were to ask them right now, hey, just out of curiosity, can you write down your net worth right now? How many of them out of those three would say, oh, yeah, for sure, and write it down?
Out of the three I'm thinking of, I think one might be able to give me a ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other two I think would say, I don't know, throw their hands in the air.
I like it. Well,
Yeah.
let's just talk through the basics. The basic calculation is assets minus liabilities, right? So let's talk about liabilities first, because sometimes there's different meanings for that, right? But basically, it's the cost, the current cost, the ongoing cost of something. Um, so let's say you buy a $500 piece of sports memorabilia and you pay 300 for it. Well, your net worth associated with that item would be 500, what it's worth, minus 300, your liability, right? So your net worth of that item would be $200. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Pretty basic, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about things that you own, big things, cars, boats, houses, investment properties, things like that, you look at what your cost is that is associated with that. If
Hmm.
someone buys a house for 500,000 and it's worth 750 and they owe 350 on it, what's the net worth? The net worth is 750 minus 350 in current time, right? Does that make
Hmm.
sense? So
Yeah.
$400,000 is your net worth on that item.
Hmm.
You may have paid 500 for it, but you've paid it down to 350. You owe 350 on it at this moment. At this moment, you could sell it for 750. It's worth 750. So that's how they're going to look at the asset that you have, the house,
Hmm.
that's worth 750,000 that you currently owe 350,000 on. So the net worth is 400, asset minus liability. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, what else could be an asset besides a house?
Well, I mean, in real estate terms, you could buy land, um, you could buy business potentially. Um, I I'm hesitant to say cars because though they do have value, they're diminishing always, typically unless there's some sort of antique or a rare specimen or something. But cars can be if you buy outright and there's value. So um, yeah, I mean, I guess anything. I'm trying to think back to the Rich Dad Poor Dad I read earlier this year, and it's all about, buying, putting your
Uh-huh,
money only towards assets instead of
uh-huh.
anything that's really a liability. I'm trying to think of anything
That's
else.
okay. That's
Stocks,
good.
bonds.
Stocks,
Yeah,
bonds, yeah.
yeah,
And if you think about stocks, for example, it changes every day, doesn't it?
yeah.
Uh, if we have an election, your net worth just on your stocks alone can vary in one day dramatically, drastically, right? If the feds drop the interest rates in one day, that affects the stock markets or all of your investments, right? Your
Yeah.
net worth can change from day to day, right? So it's the slice of time that you take, the present moment. But you're right. You go out and you buy an $80,000 Tesla and you pay cash for it. You drive it off the lot. It may not be worth 80,000 when you drive it off the lot. It may only be worth 65,000. But because you paid cash for it today, you drove it off the
Hmm.
lot today, it's $65,000 that goes towards your net worth. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Hmm.
Asset minus liability. The asset is the current value of whatever that asset is. So, those of you out there who have never calculated your net worth, think about, do you own a house? If you do, what's it worth minus how much you owe on it? Not how much you paid for it, how much you owe on it. If you were to pay it off today, what would that outstanding balance be, right? Asset minus
Hmm.
liability. If you have a car, you may only have $1,000 of net worth in that car. but that's what someone's going to look at whenever they look at your net worth. Stocks.
Hmm.
You might have $50,000 worth of stocks that is worth 50,000 today. You don't, most of you probably have not borrowed against your stocks. Assuming you haven't borrowed against your stocks, then that's what you can use as your asset with no liability against it. Now, if you think about it, if you were to cash it out, there's going to be tax consequences on anything, right? If you cash
Hmm.
something out, there's tax consequences on anything. If you cash out a 401k or any other product that's a retirement product, there's going to be tax consequences. You don't consider that for net worth. You just look at the value today versus what it's costing you today or what you
Okay.
still owe on it today, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, that
So,
does, and that's an important factor.
so I guess out there, the brokers and agents that are out there that haven't calculated it, do you own a house? How much is it worth and how much is owed on it? Do you own a piece of land that's separate from that? How much is it worth? How much do you owe on it? If you own a car or two cars, how much are they worth? How much do you owe on it? If you own some stocks or bonds or any investment plan, any retirement plans, how much is it worth? And a lot of people don't even know how much is in their retirement plans. If they've been contributing into a retirement plan, they don't know if it's 200,000 or
Yeah.
500,000.
It's usually pretty separate, so it's not something you're seeing every day kind
And you
of
don't
thing,
pay attention to
usually.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's all part of that calculation. If you have an insurance policy that is cashable, that you can cash out, a lot of people don't think
Mm,
about those.
yeah.
A lot of them you can't cash out, but some you can. What's it worth?
Hmm.
What's your cost today to like an outstanding balance? Well, most people pay for those types of insurance policies once a year, so you don't owe anything today. I could cash it out today and nothing's going to have to be paid off, right, to cash it out. So, a lot of people have paintings or collectibles or
Hmm.
sports memorabilia, something that's jewelry.
Yeah.
Think about things that you over insure on your homeowner's insurance. You get those riders to cover, right? The extra
Hmm.
rider to cover your jewelry, the extra rider to cover your paintings or your collectibles. What are they worth? And how much do you owe against them? Let's take a wedding ring, for example, a young couple, right? I guess I shouldn't say young couple anymore. It could be anybody,
Any
right?
couple,
Any couple,
anybody.
anybody
Exactly.
who's buying a
Yeah.
piece of jewelry for someone else and they buy it on time, right? They buy it on
Hmm.
credit. If if it's a ring that's worth $10,000 today and they still owe $5,000 on it, then the net worth of that item is 5,000. 10,000 minus the 5,000 owed on it, right?
Hmm.
So I think most agents and brokers out there that maybe haven't thought through the extra things might be surprised at
Hmm.
what the actual net worth of your household really is. Don't you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, and I do think there's also a potential for, I mean, because when you really think of it, what all do we have? There could be extra assets, and there could be situations where you might find something that has a lot of value that you may not be getting what you want from it as far as like, personal satisfaction. I'm thinking arts or jewelry or something. And maybe you want to say, oh, I could scrounge together a down payment for another rental property or something from these assets that I have. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm already down the road of like, Lori, how often do you think that somebody should be doing something like this? Is this in your mind, is this kind of a yearly assessment, or what do you think? I've never
I
really sat down and done anything like this,
yeah. Yeah.
before.
Well, it's something that I think is based on the individual as
Mhm.
part of your goals, right? So if someone has a goal of reaching $1 million net worth, then obviously they're going to be looking at it, right? They're going to be evaluating twice a year. Where are they? What are their goals to achieve that $1 million net worth? Um,
Hmm.
my brother has been extremely successful in business. He filed 28 tax returns last year, and that's after he already sold another, 13 companies. And
Oh,
he's been that way all of his life. He's an entrepreneur all the way. He's like a Shark Tank guy. Okay. And his goal was to be a millionaire by the time he was 26 and be a multimillionaire by the time he was 30. Well, he was a millionaire by the time he was 25, and he was a multimillionaire by the time he was 28. It's just in his DNA to set those goals and to do that. So when someone says, I'm a millionaire, if they're truly a millionaire, it doesn't mean that they have $1 million cash sitting in a bank account. It means that their
yeah,
net worth is 1 million. And
yeah,
so someone like that who has goals, they're going to be evaluating all the time, and they're going to be setting goals to achieve whatever that big nut is that they want to accomplish, right? People who don't care don't care. I mean,
yeah.
most of the people that I have talked to probably have no clue what their net worth is, you
Yeah.
know? And
This is so funny. Sorry to interrupt.
no, go.
This is reminding me, I just had a conversation with some friends of mine, just exactly about this. They just paid off their house that is, around 750, and they've got over about, I want to say, 400,000 in their retirement. So I was like, you guys are millionaires, you know that? And they're like, no, we're not. We have this, we barely have any money. We just paid off our house. I'm like, but that's the asset. That
Yeah.
is, it's all connected. And they're like, whoa, we are millionaires now. That's pretty cool. So yeah, it's really easy to forget about that because you just get busy, paying your bills and doing your thing. But
Yeah.
it's kind of cool to reach those. I mean, it's really cool to reach those accomplishments and those really
Yeah.
big, numbers. Sorry to
It's a great,
interrupt, but it
no,
just
it's a
reminded
great
me.
example. It's a great example because it demonstrates the norm, right?
Yeah.
We're grinding, or we have individual goals. Yeah, their goal was to pay off their house. They paid it off. Yay, it's worth 750,000. But there's no translation into, oh man, what does that mean I'm worth? I mean, that's a
Yeah.
great example. What you just provided is a great example. And I think most agents, if they go through this process of evaluation, they're going to be surprised that their net worth is probably higher than what they would guess or even think
Hmm.
about for those out there who don't do it regularly, right? Um,
Yeah.
of course, if you asked, the question was, do you recommend? Well, of course, I recommend it. We're in the business to help others make really good financial decisions and investments in their properties, right? That's our job. To have a
Hmm.
fiduciary responsibility, well, if we are acting as agents, to our clients in helping them make good decisions, financial decisions.
Hmm.
So, and we're not making the decisions for them. We're providing them with the information for them to make good choices, right? I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
If we're doing that, then shouldn't we live it, what we're preaching?
Hmm. Yeah.
So I think it's a good practice for people to do whenever they choose to do it. If it's once a year, once every 5 years, 4 times a year, whatever their choice is, just having the general knowledge and being able to answer that question, at least in the ballpark of, do you know what your net worth is? You know,
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
at least being in the ballpark. Um, one of the pieces that we haven't talked about is, how can you increase your net worth? Well, what do you think some ideas are?
Yeah. I mean, well, obviously paying down, paying off a house, paying off an asset, uh, and buying anything outright, in cash, um, but also potentially buying assets that will gain value. So I'm a violinist and I have one violin right now, that is, it gains value. It's an item that will gain value in time. Um, It hasn't gained any value since I've been alive, but you know, it will eventually gain value. But things like, you know, arts, things like, you know, anything that gains value, a business that's producing money and income, you know, producing property, all of those things, you know, add to the net worth and could contribute to make it grow.
Yeah. So when we're thinking about all those things, and those are all great examples, when we're thinking about those things that we could increase our net worth with, don't you think it's smart to evaluate where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, right?
Definitely.
I mean,
Yeah.
all of us probably have helped investors, for example.
Hmm.
Well, you want to help an investor get a property that's either going to pay really well in residual income or passive income, I should say, or is going to go up in value significantly, right? So if we
Hmm.
think about that, it's it's getting the greatest return on whatever we're buying. The faster we can get up to a higher return, the faster we're increasing our net worth for the least amount invested, the least amount of
Hmm.
liability. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
as agents and brokers are evaluating, well, how do I increase my net worth? They can consider all the things that you've listed. But then they take each one individually and decide which one's going to be the biggest bang for their buck. Where are they going to
Hmm.
gain the most and the fastest, you know? Um, I think it's very interesting to think about passive income and residual income. A lot of people don't know how to put a value on that. Do you put a future value on it? Do you put a current value on it? How do you analyze it? And one of the ways that I like to think about it, there are some of us who like to think this way about it. If you have a passive income coming in or a residual income coming in, instead of just taking what that amount of income is, you think about what it would take to generate that income.
Hmm.
So let me say that again. Instead of just thinking about the income that you're receiving in a year, think about how much money it would take to invest to generate that income. Now, some people have to do that, right? Like, for example, if someone buys a rental property, they've had to pay
Hmm.
for that rental property to get that extra 2000 a month, right?
Exactly. Yes.
But there's residual income out there that didn't require an investment, that isn't requiring an ongoing cost. So, how do you compare that for a good sense of net worth? Well, the way you can think about it, if you choose to, is to think about what it would take in the way of a liability to generate that residual income. Does this make sense?
You lost me a little with liability, so
Okay. All right.
circle back around.
So let's use the example of buying a rental property.
Yeah.
You have to pay 500,000 to buy this rental property.
Okay.
You owe 500,000 on it. You're generating $24,000 net off of it a year.
Okay.
Well, you still owe 500,000 on it,
Hmm.
yet you're only receiving $24,000 a year. Maybe a good investment, may not. But let's pretend you didn't have to pay that 500,000 to buy that unit. And you're still receiving $2,000 a month. You're still receiving 24,000 a year. But you have no cost against it. It's a residual income. How do you evaluate that for net worth? Well, you work backwards and you say, how much would I have to put into a 5% bearing account, a CD, to generate 2000 a month? And then add that to your net worth because you didn't have
Hmm.
to pay for it. It's like owning that rental outright.
Yeah. So if you buy, let's just say you bought the unit for 500,000 in cash. You're
Okay.
receiving, what did we say, 24,000 a year, so 2,000 a month. So you would have that 500,000, let's just say that's your only asset in the world. And now you're worth 500,000.
Mhm.
So then you would go ahead, what would be the net worth of that?
The half a million because you own it
Okay.
outright. But
Okay.
let's say you had a $500,000 loan,
Yeah.
100% loan, which doesn't happen, right? It's going to be
Yeah. Just for
80% or
numbers, but
whatever.
yeah.
But let's just pretend that you owe 500,000 and you're
Mhm.
generating 2,000 a month versus owning it outright and generating 2,000 a month. Well, if you have a residual income where you haven't had to make an investment, right? What amount would you have to invest to generate that 2,000 a month? So, like in a CD, if I'm getting an extra 2,000 a month, how much would I have to have in a CD account, for example, at 5% interest for me to be receiving that 2,000 a month? So some people use this to calculate and add to their net worth. There's no cost against it. So it's as if you bought that rental outright with cash. Same concept. So if it's
Mhm.
5% interest, it's 24,000 a year. Well, you just divide that by 5%, and that's equivalent to having $480,000 sitting in a CD. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's coming together, but yeah, I've never really thought about it in that way though.
Yeah, it's a different way, and some of us choose to look at things like that because some of us have residual income that we've not
Mhm.
paid a dime for, right?
Mhm.
And so how do you calculate that into your net worth? Well, the easiest way is to think about how much you would have to put into a low interest bearing account to generate that same income.
Mhm.
It didn't cost me $480,000 to get an extra $2,000 a month, but it's worth 480,000 if it's a continuous residual income that I continue to get. So my
Mhm.
net worth just went up 480,000 because I don't have any
So
cost against it.
so if you have the loan, let's just say for 500,000, and let's say you're making a payment of, I mean, it probably would be more than 2,000 bucks. But let's just say for numbers, you're paying 1,000 bucks a month on your rent, on your mortgage. It's, you bought it for 500,000, you're getting 2,000 in rent. So you're coming out, 1,000 ahead every month,
Mhm.
assuming there's no, problems or anything. So this is not real. But let's just say you come out 1,000 bucks ahead. Would you now consider that to be uh, about 240,000 of net worth?
No, because you own, okay, two different scenarios and two different
Oh, am I
things.
mixing them?
One is a cash flow issue, right? You're receiving 2,000 a month, it's costing you 1,000 a month. That's a cash flow
Hmm.
issue. Your net cash flow for the year is $12,000 in theory, right?
Yeah.
But what we're talking about is assets minus liabilities. Well, in this case, your asset is worth half a million. Your liability is half a million. So there is
So it
no,
just cancels out. Okay,
right,
I
there is no
understand
net
that.
worth. If you have a $500,000 property and you owe 300,000 on it, it doesn't matter if you're receiving income, right? Let me tell you how that works. Um,
Hmm.
you've got a $300,000 cost against a $500,000 asset, 300,000 liability against a $500,000 asset. Therefore, your net worth on that unit is
It's right at
200,000,
two.
right?
Yeah.
So the other thing that you add into your net worth is your cash on hand. So let's say you're a landlord owner and you owe that 300,000 on that unit that's worth 500,000 and you keep 1 year's worth of net income or gross income, let's just say gross income, in a working capital account. Okay.
Okay.
Always for safety. So if they're paying 2,000 a month, you've got 24,000 sitting in that working capital account. Your asset is now 300, the $500,000 value of the unit plus the $24,000 in cash minus the liability of the 300 that you owe on it. So your net worth is 224,000.
Okay.
That's different than dealing with month-to-month cash flow. Residual income off of something that you've never had to pay for, you ask the question, well, what would I have had to have paid for it to get that income?
Yeah.
Anyone who's been involved in evaluating businesses, like I've started and owned businesses and sold them, when you get involved in evaluating businesses, it's a lot, it becomes an easier concept to grasp. It's hard when we just work with the basics as typical realtors, real estate
Yeah.
agents, I should say. But let's say you have a gift from grandma, from her inheritance, okay, that is paying you $1,000 a month for the rest of your life. You didn't have to pay anything on it. You don't owe anything for it. How do you come up with a net worth valuation for that piece?
So that's kind of when you would do that CD calculation we did
Yep. You
earlier.
work backwards. You work backwards and you
Yeah.
say, okay, $1,000 a month. If I were to have to pay for something to get that $1,000 a month for the rest of my life, let's think about what we could pay for that would generate that 1,000 a month. And the easiest thing is to think of something simple, low interest bearing,
Yeah.
something
Yeah. You can't.
typical and safe, right?
Yeah.
So how much would I have to pay and buy in CDs to generate $1,000 of a month in income for me for the rest of my life? So you just pick a number, whatever the going rate is. And if it's 5%, you take the $1,000, you multiply it times 12. I'm doing this on a calculator. Anybody could follow along. And you divide it by 5%, if 5% is the rate, 0.05. You just increase your net worth by 240,000 by grandma giving you for the rest of your life that $1,000 a month. Some people look at net worth that way. They add it to their net worth. Even though they don't have any liability that they've ever had to pay to get it, what would they have had to pay to get that? Does that make
It's an
sense or
interesting way
help at
to
all?
look at it. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I've never really thought of it that way. So I guess if you're in that situation and you do have that and you now are like, oh, I have this new way of kind of calculating my net worth. Um, what do you do with that information? How can we make the most of that? Is it just to feel good and say, oh, I'm worth more than I thought and I should, have less maybe insecurity about money or something, and I should feel more confident. Is that kind of what you feel like you get, above and beyond just feeling like we're doing our due diligence and we're in the game of real estate like our clients are? What do you get from doing an activity like that?
Well, I've been involved in um, applications for various financial things, right?
Hmm.
And I flat out use it.
Yeah.
I'll write it out in addition because there's always a section of additional assets,
Hmm.
and I always list it as an additional asset to come up with the net worth. Net worth increased by X number of dollars due to a residual income with no liability against it for the rest of my life.
Yeah. You know, I feel like a lot of people, us as professionals in the real estate industry, our closest, lowest hanging fruit is buying properties, rental properties. We're in that world. So when I think of my retirement plan, that's always been my idea. I'll be investing in real estate just like my clients, and that'll help everybody here, and it'll help me stay up, and it's something that I understand now after 10 years in real estate. So um, I would imagine that most property owners who are trying to pull together a net worth for whatever reason are probably just going off of, I've got 10 rentals, they're all paid off, and this is what they're worth, and that's my net worth. And that would basically be it because they paid, and that's what they get, even though they get that residual income or the
Passive
income of
income.
rent.
Passive
The
income is different
yeah,
than.
yeah. The passive income from rental income, is that something that you could do this calculation with as well? Or is it really it's just what you own in the property?
You could if you wanted, but you already have the asset.
Hmm.
So you'd be doubling up on that asset when you do that. You
Okay.
can't add a $500,000 free and clear property and then add another 240,000 of or passive income valuation as if you had invested in a CD because you don't have to. You've already invested in the property itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The
It'd be
property
unfair.
itself is the value. Okay. Yeah, that makes
So,
sense. And that's what I was thinking too. But I was like, I should, just in case any of you out there are thinking, oh
yeah.
wow, my my network just doubled because I didn't think about doing, but yeah, I understand what you mean. And that makes sense to me.
Well, and the reason why I like to emphasize it is because, I was one of those people, right?
Mhm.
I've had over 70 transactions myself of buying and selling investment properties and had rentals and had all of that. Um, hindsight's 2020. We had millions of dollars out there in these properties. Now I've got a residual income because of agents that have come on board that I don't charge a fee to, but I get paid a residual income for having helped grow the company, right? In EXP.
Mhm.
And, you know, hindsight's 2020. I would never have invested all that money in these properties if I had known that all I had to do was bring on a handful of agents to have the same income and not just for that one and done or for that period of time and the hassles of handling rentals and
Mhm.
valuation fluctuations, all that, that I not only have it this year, but for the rest of my life and the rest of my kids' lives, right?
Mhm.
So, in thinking through that, I've met with a lot of agents that say, just like what you're saying, it's what we know to buy and sell properties, right? So, I talked to a lot of agents who that's their goal. I'm going to make
Yep.
money so that I can turn around and buy an investment properties and hopefully buy more than one. And long term, that's going to be my retirement.
Yep.
So, would you rather go through steps A, B, and C to reach your goal, or would you rather skip the step B just to get to C right away?
Skip.
So, yeah. So, let's work through this for a minute. If you buy an investment property and your goal is to net $1,000 a month, right? $1,000 a month. You might have to charge 1,300 a month, right? 1,400 a month to net 1,000 a
Mhm.
month. So let's say you can buy a great deal for 250,000 to be able to rent it to generate that net $1,000 a month. Let's think
Mhm.
through that, okay? How long is it going to take you to work your what off to save an extra 250,000 to be able to buy that investment property cash so that you can keep $1,000 out of every 1,350 or 1,400 a month. Because if you have a loan against it, you're not going to be making that much. You might be making a couple hundred a month, right?
Hmm.
So most agents, when I ask them that, they really don't know how long it's going to take them to save up for that first investment.
Yeah.
If I were to ask you right now, how long do you think it would take you to save up $250,000 to be able to buy a property outright?
Outright. I mean, I couldn't tell you right now. It wouldn't
Yeah,
be, it
like
wouldn't, it wouldn't be
that's usually
weeks. It
the
would be like, it's going to take some
years.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how most people think. Even agents who are very high producing and making good money, mega agents, it still may take them a couple years to save up that amount of money to pay cash outright. Now, most don't, right? Reality is most don't. They go ahead
Yeah.
and pay 80% or 20% down. They buy it and loan, borrow 80%. They're paying a higher interest rate because they don't live in it. And they're really only making $200 a month or $300 a month on that unit instead of 1,000, right? That's the
Hmm.
reality. They never do pay it off, or if they do pay it off, it's after 10 years, right?
Hmm.
So would you rather go through that process, or would you rather just go out and talk to some agents and get a dozen agents on board at EXP in a year without spending any extra time doing extra deals to be able to save up $250,000 to generate the same income starting next year? Which is
Yeah.
easier? Is it easier to go out and talk to agents, or is it easier to work extra hard to do extra deals to save money? Which one is easier? Is it
Yeah. I
easier
think,
to
yeah,
rent
talking.
properties and deal with the hassles of renting and clean up? My last rental cost me $18,000 to fix the repairs. The one before that was almost 12,000 to fix the repairs. And these were people that I was checking up on every 6 months. They were taking care of the property until they decided to move. And then they destroyed the property the month that they decided to move. It wasn't intentional. They just knew that it wasn't their home anymore.
Yeah.
So which is easier? And then you ask the question, which is faster? Is it faster to get a dozen agents on board, or is it faster to work extra hours to do extra deals to start saving up that extra 250,000 to be able to buy it outright to then start renting?
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it in those kinds of numbers and you think about, what that kind of monthly income equates to as like a net worth, it puts it in a new perspective. I'm definitely seeing things differently after this
Yeah,
conversation. That's really
yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Hmm.
So those of you who don't know, uh, we're with EXP, and that's what made the
Oh,
life change for us, right?
yeah.
And um, just simply by sharing the opportunity with other agents has resulted in residual income. It allowed us to retire way early
Hmm.
and do what I love most, which is helping agents. Well, that's my thing, right?
Yeah.
So it is a golden nugget that we don't think about. How can you get residual income without paying for it? That's the question. Because
Yeah.
that's the best way to do it, right? That's how do you get
Hmm.
income without paying for it? And there's just not a lot of opportunities out there. There's affiliate
Hmm.
marketing. You can get income off of that without paying for anything. It
Hmm.
takes a lot, usually, of time,
Yeah. I mean,
and it's
you're not
bits, small
physically paying
bits.
for it,
Yeah.
but you're paying in time and effort. You have to typically, if you're doing affiliate marketing, you have to get somebody to join. So you have to, you know, do something to get your product or service out in front of people, and then hopefully people buy under your name or whatever. But even creative stuff, even things that you make, there's always something associated with that. And even with the agent attraction, I mean, there is the time. of connecting with people and bringing people onto your team, and that takes time and energy. But it's a lot. It's going to be a lot faster than just sinking 250K into my checking account from working harder.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well,
Yeah.
and if you compare to affiliate marketing, and I'm being very conservative, you know, if you've got someone who's generating about 3 million in sales in the United States, it's actually going to be, you know, $2,800 a year for you, plus some stocks that
Hmm.
are given to you. I'm just using generic numbers. Even if you get $1,000 based on someone who's only doing 1.5 million worth of business in a year, in a year's period of time, and it's not coming from them, it's coming from EXP. They're the ones that are
Hmm.
paying us, right?
Yeah.
And uh, so it doesn't hurt the agent. The agent has access to a lot more things. They now get stock. They now get the opportunity to get residual income themselves if they choose to share the concept. But I guess my point is if someone's evaluating net worth and how do I increase net worth the fastest, easiest way, well, logic tells you if there's any way to get income without paying for it, that's the best kind of income that you can get.
Absolutely.
And it's a legacy for not just you and your household, but for your loved ones that inherit it for the rest of their lives. You
Hmm.
know, there's legacy in leaving assets um, that are free and clear or almost free and clear. There's a legacy in all kinds of monthly incomes, whether it's residual income or passive incomes. There's a legacy in insurance policies, right? There's a lot of things that we can do in the legacy category.
Hmm.
Um, but for our lives right today, what's the quickest and easiest way to make income without having to pay for something to get it? That's the question we should be asking ourselves, in my opinion.
That's okay. Yeah, yeah, I hear you. And I think I'm right along with you.
Yeah. So if you could think about reality, how much in a month do you think would be a nice bonus for yourself to be able to do what you want to do, whatever that is? Just a nice bonus, nothing too big, just a nice bonus.
Yeah, I mean, like when I think of an extra $1,000 a month, that'd be great. That would be really nice. Not too
So,
much, not not so little that it doesn't feel like anything, but an extra 1,000 would be great. I think
mhm,
2,500 would be really good, but an extra $1,000 would be like, okay, that's nice. Yeah.
okay. So let's work the numbers. An extra thousand a month times 12 divided by 0.05. That would be you taking the time and energy to save up $240,000 to stick into a CD.
It's a lot of time and energy.
A lot of time and energy. Or you could go out and get somewhere between 6 and 12 agents to join EXP.
Wow.
25, but it adds $240,000 to your net worth, right?
Yeah.
2,500 a month times 12 divided by 0.05 adds $600,000 to your net worth. Think about how long it would take you to work hard and save up $600,000 to stick into a CD.
About three times as long. Yeah.
Yet, if you think about 2,500 a month, you know, that's between 15 and 25 agents.
Yeah.
Think you could do that in 2 years?
I think so.
Which would be faster, touching the hearts and helping, you know,
Yeah.
15 to 25 agents come on board TXP to enjoy the benefits that we have? Or would it be faster for you to work hard and save up 600,000 to stick into a CD?
Yeah, I mean, hands down, it's the conversations.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it adds 600,000 to your net worth once you reach that point.
Yeah.
So
What
it
a great
really,
perspective change.
yeah, really, it really adds to your perspective. And not everybody looks at net worth that way. I've used it on several financial type applications without them even questioning it.
Hmm.
Um, because, you know, when you do investments and get involved in other things outside of just buying a typical piece of property,
Hmm.
there's usually a net worth section in there.
Yeah.
And you list additional assets and, you know, you list your liabilities, but you also put in any other net worth items. And I always put in my residual income that I owe nothing against.
Yeah.
And they take it because they understand it's like an investment, you know. It's exactly like an investment that I didn't have to pay for.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really great. That perspective change really is strong. I mean, as an EXP agent, obviously I'm connected. I know what's going on with the company and things like that. But what a great reminder of just how powerful each conversation is and
Yeah.
how much of a difference that it makes in our lives personally, but also for every other agent that comes on to our team or joins EXP. Every single person is that opens up that opportunity for those people as well. So it's
Exactly.
really really strong and important and powerful to see that. That's really cool.
Well, and honestly, there's a lot of agents who reach that point in their life where they're ready to hang it up, and yet they don't have a retirement plan.
Yeah.
And so they come on board to have their now retirement plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people, I know a lot of agents that have joined EXP in order to make some headway towards a retirement plan, because we've all been in offices with people that are like, how are you still showing homes? You're so old. I don't want to say that, but I've worked with agents that I'm like, you're in your 80s. I don't want to be in my 80s opening up lock boxes and things like that.
And a lot
I
of
I
them
want to
love it.
be,
A lot of
yeah, of
agents love it.
course.
But there have been those agents that I've had quiet conversations with that have told me flat out the reason why I'm doing this is because I don't have any retirement, you know, and I don't know what
Yeah.
else I can do. I can't go out, like I've had them flat out tell me I can't go out and get another job. No one's going to hire me at my age. And this isn't about age, it's just about thinking forward in what kind of life we want to have. Or those of you out
Yeah.
there who are listening to this, what kind of life do you want to have at what point in your life? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether it's 25, 50, or 100, whatever. What kind of life do you want at whatever point in your life? And work towards that and think ahead. So many times I think people have never had conversations with anyone that's prompted them to think ahead. And
Hmm.
they're in the grind. They're living day to day. And then they wake up one day and say, "Oh man, I'm tired of this. I don't want to do it anymore. What else can I do? I can't do anything else because this is all I've done for the last 30 years. No one else is going to hire me. I don't want to go work for someone else. I've been working for myself all these years." These are real life feedback conversations that agents have given me. So we're doing this
Oh
in an
yeah.
effort to allow people to hopefully be helped by this conversation and think through whatever your choices are, to think
Hmm.
through it and know that there's options out there. And of course, Tim and I are
Yeah.
available if anybody wants to reach out to us to help work that through that further. It doesn't mean that you have to be part of us if you don't want to be. That's not what the intent is. The intent is to help you work through it for yourself and what's right for you and what that looks like for you. And
Absolutely.
we're here as sounding boards if you need to reach out to us.
Yeah. Well, I know we're probably just about out of time, but I agree completely with you, and what you just said was options. I mean, that's all we want. We all want to have as many options as we can, and this conversation today is to serve as a an option, another option for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Lori said, you don't have to be with us. You don't have to do anything, but if you like us and want to talk, or just are interested in learning more, we're obviously here to help. That's why we're talking and putting
Yeah.
this out today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be
so
thought
it's so
provoking
important.
to help you get where you want to be when you want to get there, no matter what that
Yeah,
looks like for you, you know. Well, great, Tim.
absolutely.
I'm grateful that you were here today and helped me work
Yes,
through
this was
this. I
so
think it's a
great.
good example for folks out there and thinking through this process. So
Yeah,
appreciate it.
and it's not so scary, right?
It's not so scary. It's not so intimidating. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I
All
really
right.
appreciate you having me on today, Lori. I will see you next time.
All right. Take care, everyone.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.